Hi everyone, my name is Lily and welcome back to the channel. Finals are finally over. It's been about a week since my finals ended and I finally have all my grades back. And I'm glad to report it's A's across the board, which is shocking because I thought for sure I would get a B in one of my classes due to some issues with my professor. But luckily I managed to scrape by and get that A. Today I want to give you guys some tips on how I managed to ace every one of my classes. That way you guys can use these tips into the next semester of college. It was my personal first semester of college and I was terrified to say the least. It was scary. I didn't know what to do. And I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning. And right here, right now, I want to give you guys some tips. I took 6 classes this semester. I took a philosophy course, a history course, a theology course, a math course, a music course, and a UNIF course. If your college does not offer a UNIF course, it's basically where it legit just teaches you about the college. It's university course. So for my first tip for you guys, pick your class times wisely if you can. This UNIF class, the only option I really had, because I didn't really want to look too hard, was a 4 p.m. class on a Thursday. And let me tell you, that was awful. I hated it. Because every other day, including on Thursdays, I had morning classes. I did my best to have morning classes that only go a little bit into the afternoon. And on Thursdays, the farthest would go to is 12:15. So from 12:15 to 4 p.m., I would have nothing to do. I would either just go back home and eat and just hang out, or I would stay at school where I didn't have a lot of food and I don't use meal plan because I'm a commuter, and I would just starve for 4 hours. So pick your schedules wisely. Don't pick a class at a time that you're not gonna like. Luckily, this upcoming semester, I only have one class that kind of has to be weird, and that's on Tuesday. That's my only class for that day, though. Everything else, I've done good, so that way there's not more than like an hour break in between classes. You don't want anything more than an hour break in between classes, especially if you're a commuter. You will just be bored and hungry, and you won't have that much to do. For my second tip, go to class. Actually go to class. We are paying this college so much money just to not go. And a lot of professors will grade based off how often you go. And even if they don't, they probably say they will, and you don't want to take that chance. So just go to class. Unless you are really sick or have an actual family emergency and you just cannot attend, go. And if you can't show up, give your professors notice. This goes into another tip I want to go into, which is building rapport. Your professors, if they don't know you, they're not going to really care if you need that extension. Some professors are a lot nicer than others, and if you build a rapport and they know who you are and you participate in class and you show up to class, they will be way more lenient with you if you need help. I had a professor on a day when I could not show up. And this was a class where it was like really, really bad to miss. It was my theology class. You were never really supposed to miss this class. It would count against you. But I was honest with my professor because I was one of the only students who'd been participating and showing up all year. He had given me that day off so that way I would not have to worry about my grade, and that was one of my easiest classes all semester, despite how difficult it was supposed to be. It ended up being quite easy. Next up, you need to figure out your own personal effort to grade ratio. And what do I mean by that? Well, you don't need to always put in 100% effort in order to get that A you want. I had a ton of classes where I did have to put in 90 to 100% of my effort, that I was saying stuff like math or my music class. Those I had to put in 100% in order to get that A. But my theology class, where I was supposed to have over 100 pages of homework a week, I didn't do it. Because I realized that if I just paid attention in class and took notes and created flashcards before every single exam, I would get a good grade. And I was right. I started doing that second section of the class onward, section 2 and 3. There were 3 sections to this class. I did not read the homework. I did not do it. It was over 100 pages a week. And as a starting freshman in college, I did not want to do that. And I figured out I didn't have to. So you have to figure out that ratio. You need to figure out, okay, do I really have to do all of this in order to get that A? Or do I not really have to? And I only recommend really not doing the homework if it's really not necessary and you understand it, and if it's not for a class that has to do with your major. I'm only taking theology because it's a requirement of my college. I had to go to a Christian college despite the fact that I am not a Christian in the slightest. I'm a very proud atheist, but I chose this college because it's very eco-friendly and I love the school. But sadly, I still have to take theology classes. And because of that, I only put in, I would say, about 50% effort into this class, and I still got that A. So figure out that ratio. If you really only need to put in 60% effort to get that A, don't put in 70%. Because one of the biggest things I was worried about was burnout, and I saw it amongst all my other classmates. They were all burned out because they were all putting 100% effort into 6 or 7 different classes, and it was bad. You don't want to end up like them. I luckily did not burn out because I managed to find a good balance amongst all my classes. I figured out which ones I really had to dig into in order to understand what I was learning, and for others, I didn't have to do as much. This also goes into do the homework if necessary. For my theology class, the homework, it would have been nice if I'd done it, but it wasn't really that necessary to get that A. For my math class, that homework was 100% necessary. I had to do that homework. I had to do extra homework on top of that because you have to practice those skills. And doing the homework for that class, it was graded. For a lot of classes, it's graded homework. For my theology class, it wasn't graded. He had no way of checking if you'd actually read it. We didn't do reading quizzes. But for other classes like philosophy and math, I had to do the homework, otherwise I was not going to get that good A. So do the homework if it's necessary. This also goes into practice the skills. What I mean by this, if you have something like a math class or something like a music class like I had, you have to practice those skills daily. I did math every day, and I did singing every day. I took a singing class in order to fill an artistic core. And the only reason I managed to get such amazing grades in both those classes was because I practiced every single day, even if I was tired. Unless I had like a sickness or an illness or absolutely just could not, I practiced. And for my music class, even if I was sick, I would still practice my music theories. That was also a big component of the class. It's not just singing. I also have to know my music theory skills, which luckily I've been doing that for about a decade now. So luckily I know that, but I still practice it every single day up until now. Now I don't practice anymore because now the class is over and I already have my A. But thanks to that practice for my final, it ended up sounding amazing. And I would love to share with you guys how my final for my music went. So I hope you guys enjoy this little break from the rest of the video. Go ahead and watch me sing my heart out to a song called Amaili. This is an Italian song. Have fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I love that song so much. I sang it about a year ago for a different class that was not really going to be shown to anyone. It was for private singing lessons, but I decided to do it again for my final because we all got to choose. I was the only one who sung in Italian, and that made me really happy because I love singing in different languages, and I'm a very classical singer. I know it probably wasn't the best you've heard out there, but I did try very hard for this class, and I am proud of myself. Let's move on to the last 2 tips, and probably 2 of the most important tips I'm going to give you guys for next semester. The first one being, use Rate My Professor. My philosophy class was a pain in my butt the whole semester, and a part of that was because I ignored all of the warning signs on Rate My Professor. Everyone was telling me about how this professor grades wildly and how their class is so unclear, and if you take this class, you're not a philosophy major, you will struggle. And I went in thinking, I'm sure they're over-exaggerating. They were not over-exaggerating. That class was hard. It was supposed to be a philosophy class. When is philosophy class supposed to be hard? It's philosophy. This class was hard. Turns out, this professor, she is really nice, but I hated her. I hated her every single day because they were right. She had so unclear grading guidelines. You had to show up every single day, and she was a strict grader for what was supposed to be a very basic class. This was supposed to be one of the most basic classes you could take at the university, and it was so unreasonably hard. And while I managed to scrape out that A- somehow, it was hard because with this class, you had to get lucky. You had to know exactly what you wanted, you had to write that down, and you weren't really allowed to stray off of the textbook we were using. If you did that, you'd get points off. If you tried bringing in your own ideas, your own connections, points off. It was a hard class because I did not use Rate My Professor. And if I had used Rate My Professor, I would have gone with a different professor or a different class entirely, because while you might have a class planned, you don't have to stick to it. You're allowed to go off and change in classes. As long as by the end you're graduating, it doesn't really matter what order you really take all these classes in, unless it's like a prerequisite. But I would have easily either found another professor, or I would have switched it in for a whole other course that I would have either enjoyed more or had a better professor in. And I learned my lesson. And this semester, I was able to get the general structure I wanted to mirror what I had this semester, but I vetted out every single professor. All of them had amazing ratings, and I'm excited. So I think that means it's gonna be good. Because I did not do that my first semester, I did not listen to all the advice, and it almost got me to that B mark, which for some of you might be like, oh, it's not a bad job. But for the major I'm in, a finance major, it's expected you get at least a 3.5 or higher, or in some cases a 3.7 or higher in order to be considered for most hiring positions once you graduate from college. So I really need to maintain a really high grade, and that B would have been a really bad start to my 4-year college life. But luckily, I managed to scrape out that A, and I have a rule for myself where I'm allowed 1 B every year. So that way I don't worry if I end up with a really hard class. That might have to change, but so far it doesn't, because I managed to get that. Technically it was an A-, not a perfect A, but I'm taking it A as an A. I don't really care what little symbol is next to it. It's an A. And for my final tip for everyone, don't procrastinate at all. Never procrastinate. Do the homework when it's assigned. Start on things right away. I personally don't struggle with procrastination, especially when it comes to schoolwork, because I'm a sucker for school. But I had a lot of friends who would procrastinate, especially things like chemistry. If y'all are taking chemistry, you know it's hard. I didn't have to take it, but I had to help my friend create over 100 flashcards for this class, and he's still, I don't even know if they even passed. They honest to God might have not passed. I never checked in about that part. If you procrastinate, you're gonna end up in a situation where everything starts piling up and it'll become harder and harder to dig out of that hole. Start on things right away. If you know an essay's coming up, start on it right away. For my final essay, I started on it a month and a half before it was due, and I got an A on that because I started it right away. Because if you do it last minute and you realize you messed something up, there's not a lot of time to change it. But if you get started early, you can revise it multiple times and look through it and catch all of those mistakes. And those are my top tips on how to get all those A's that you guys want. Let's go over them again quickly. Go to class. Figure out your effort to grade ratio. Do the homework if it's necessary. Practice all your skills. Build that rapport with your professor. Participate in class. Use Rate My Professor. Get that schedule you want and get those professors that are actually going to teach you something and not just be a wild grader. And don't procrastinate even if you really want to. No procrastinating. There is no reason why you should put off something that can easily be done right now just to do it another day, to do something like doom scrolling. That is going to be all for today. I know this one's a little bit of a shorter video, but I have another one coming out shortly after this one where I will be having you guys pack with me from all of America because I'm going on vacation right after Christmas. That'll be all for today, guys. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye!